People, Deluded, I'm back again. Good afternoon, and I hope you're all doing well and safe. I say good afternoon, it's 12 o'clock at the time of making this video over here in the UK. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever time zone you're operating in. I hope you and your family and loved ones or whatever are all safe. Now, in relation to Arsenal, I'm sure you have seen what Ian Wright's doing. Ian Wright in general, you know, he's our uncle. I mean, you know, he's my uncle, essentially, being younger than him. I'm sure a couple people just older than me have a lot of affinity to him, as I do with myself. And, you know, if you're way older than that, you had a lot of love for what he did as an Arsenal player. But he's definitely anyone I'd say in their teenagers to 30s, he's everybody's favourite uncle, and he does, you know, we love him on BBC, Match of the Day, we love all his documentaries, you know, we love all his work even with rappers, and, you know, definitely since the Corona stuff started, he's always done work, but you've seen him interview David Luiz, Lukaku, there's probably been a couple more and stuff like that, and, you know, he's courtesy of Adidas. I don't know. Obviously, Arsenal are sponsored by Adidas, and Ian Wright's an Adidas Donny, so I don't know how the move came about in terms of getting Arteta and Ian Wright to link up. It wasn't just Arteta, it was a bunch of other players, managers and people. But he spoke with Arteta, and Arteta offered some thoughts, and I thought I would grab some quotes together and, you know, just go through them. Like I said, I think it's on his YouTube channel, or just type in Ian Wright Arteta, it should come up on YouTube. It's about 20 minutes long, but there are some other segments with other people. But it's a good watch nonetheless. But moving forward, and you know, Arteta, he speaks very well, and it is a mixture of, you know, I think he speaks with conviction. 100% believe him. Obviously, a bit of it is PR because he very much understands everybody needs to sing from the same hymn sheet. I don't think Emre really got that at his time, but he said, "The moment we mention Arsenal, Ian, you know what it means around the world. Everybody wants to come here, and we have a really clear idea of what we are. It doesn't need much convincing, and if they do, for me it's not a good starting point. If I have to convince a player to stay or join us, to Arsenal, it holds me back a little bit. It has to be, what do we have to do? I want to play for the club and represent exactly the values, the style of play that I want. That's the kind of emotion I want to hear at the start. The same with players that are here. Once you finish, what are your feelings you have towards the club? That's what interests me." And it's true. Like Sanjay said, it's a different knock FC. Obviously, it doesn't matter. Again, you look at Arsenal, you look at United. I use them examples as two teams. Obviously, United are dramatically more successful than us, but two teams who are really fallen giants and not really doing anything of significance in domestic football and you know, club competition in terms of the European counterparts. But when these teams come calling, you have to be prepared to listen to them. And, you know, even though Arsenal have been failing, fair enough, Lacazette's not been in good form, but you still attracted Lacazette, we've still attracted Alexis Sanchez, Aubameyang has still signed for this club, and other teams have done the same thing. So, you know, we've still got some sort of a pull. Obviously, to that degree, I 100% agree. You don't need no convincing. But if we look at it in reality terms, you do need to convince people to join this project, because as the margins in terms of top 6, potentially one day going to be a top 10, get smaller, you have to convince. If everybody can offer a good contract, everybody can get everyone more or less in the league nowadays. It's about what project you offer, how you sell yourself. And to be fair, as much as I love Arsenal, I would, if I was a player and Arsenal were interested in me, I'm signing for Arteta, and I'm signing for the historical ties of Arsenal. Do you get what I'm saying, people? I believe in what Arteta's doing and Arsenal historically. I'm not too sure if I'm buying into the current project or regime that's existing, because you look at it, if you're a player that's of any standard, like a real top quality player, you're seeing a mess of the wage bills. That's not of relevance to you at first hand, because you're going to get money. But why that's of relevance? Because if they're restricted with wage bills and mismanagement off the field in terms of finances, it's going to obviously affect their ability to bring in likewise quality or better than what you are, to obviously make the team stronger. So would you necessarily want to sign for that? That's another thing for people to consider. But taking at face value for what Arteta said, you can't disagree. And that was in relation to transfers and things like that. He was then asked around like the topic of contract rebels or people in contracts. He said, "The moment we mention Arsenal, everybody knows what it means around the world. Everyone wants to come here, and we have a clear idea of what we want. You know, it really doesn't need much convincing. And if they do, for me, it's not a good starting point." And I think I've said that already, you know. No, I haven't. I guess I've read that comment quite a few times. He also said, "If I have to convince a..." Sorry, people, we've said that bit, but that's what he said on contracts, and obviously that's a bit in Aubameyang. Trying to find the bit where he sat, like, one thing that got me when I was reading what he was saying, people, he was really big on Kieran Tierney. Really big on Kieran Tierney. Really big on Kieran Tierney. I think we'll get to it in a sec, but He also said, I'm realistic enough to know it won't happen overnight, but the current squad has plenty of talent and there's a great pipeline of young players coming through from the academy. And obviously, if you hear Arteta saying that, that's gonna gas you as a young player. That's gonna gas you if you're Emil Smith-Rowe, who's gone out on loan. Clearly, Arteta and the management felt he wasn't quite ready. You know, that's gonna gas you to have more of a chance. People are seeing what Saka's doing. People seeing Martinelli's doing. Obviously, and Joe Willock's fair enough. He's not a starter, but you know, there's been times he's started. And what I like about Arteta, it doesn't matter if it's the young players or Mustafi and people that we thought didn't have a future here. He keeps speaking about training well, and for me that's good, because if you're training well, you're playing, and he'll give confidence in you. He made a comment about, not to throw Maitland-Niles under a bus, but he kind of publicly, you know, not humiliated Maitland-Niles, but kind of alluded to the fact publicly he needs to assert himself more in training. So if you're a young player, if you do your thing, you'll start. Look at Joe Willock in the 10 position, sort of thing. And obviously, we need our academy to help us. If we haven't got money to spend, and even if we did, I keep telling you, look, coaching and improving existing players, getting what's the right word? What the hell was that, DG? What's the word for continuing people? When you continuing, I don't know the word, man. When you continue something, I don't know it, but you know when you've got a squad people and you just keep developing, the core bunch, but you keep developing, getting them, you know, good with the tactics and understanding. I think that's an underrated aspect, and you know, whatever the word is for you don't know, innit, the continue word, innit? He's going to have to do that, and coaching is a big part of what Arsenal's going to do, because we're not going to be able to drop 50 here, 60 there, 70 there on all these players. We need Arteta to be given some quality, but coaching's a big part. And I felt, to a degree, it took Arsenal fans a while, not to bash Emre, because irrelevant, but it took fans a while to realise Emre wasn't doing that. He kept hearing, and a lot of it was right, not his squad. You know, he needs time, all of these other excuses. Arteta's come in 5 minutes, and granted, a lot of these players, like Mustafi, we don't know if he's going to play to this level next year, but clearly that's a man who can coach, because he's got them players that I said in a video that, you know, he's got to get, and I said this word for word in one of my videos, you lot can quote me, I said he's got to get players that we feel have no future playing like worldies, and to a degree he has. So imagine what he could do with genuine quality. Obviously we'll hit a glass wall eventually, and he needs quality, and you know, a lot of these players playing in form, we don't know if they're going to play to that standard, but down the line, but it's decent, and we need our young players to help us. We need players to come through the academy and plug holes in the squad, become first team regulars, actually be sold on for profit as well. What it takes our academy 3 million a year, 3 million a year to operate, I believe. You look at someone like Iwobi, he's come through the academy, sold for 30 odd. That's what it's about. He's become a first team player, played games, he's been sold on. That money can be redistributed. Obviously, it's not as black and white as that, white and black, whatever you prefer, but you get the point. He then also said, and obviously he knows this ain't a quick turnaround or process, and again, it's not just down to Arteta, he needs to be helped. But moving away from that, he said, coming into a club in that moment wasn't easy, but you mentioned a key word, which is energy. And I felt that energy around the training ground and the stadium wasn't right for this magnificent club, And it's true. And Arsenal fans, to a degree, were still fractured, but I feel we're all singing from the same hymn sheet. First and foremost, you know, Arsenal fans, I think I speak for everyone, we haven't seen, management is one thing, we've had many different, you know, Wenger, Arteta, Emre, we can criticise tactics and things, and we know that's one hand, but for me, we didn't see a clear intent to become winners. We heard fancy paragraphs and stuff coming out from executives, and we got to hide behind the values and the prestige of this club and how classy it is, allegedly, but we never really saw anything. We see in 1 minute, we're hearing one thing, and then but our actions are not backing it, so we needed that. And I think Arsenal fans needed something to believe in. And I think that's kind of helped Arteta, is that, let's be honest, definitely in my lifetime as an Arsenal fan, expectations are on the floor. Like, they're on the floor. Like, even though I love Arteta, and I'm not criticising him, he's done a lot, he's great, I'm believing in him. Some things that he's improved or improving, we're overpraising it to a slight degree, and I'm not wording it in the right way. That's purely because of, and not Arteta's fault, but because we've been so fractured, and the very basics we've wanted to see in our team, we haven't seen them under previous management, that everything is a bonus sort of thing. And I think away from that, Arsenal fans have really got to recognise how crap our team currently is, forgive me if I'm wrong, because under Emre, we had small hope of top four, and yes, he did bottle it in the last furlong last season along with the team, but you know, the wall's been pulled from people's eyes. You can see how poor this side is. You can see the tasks at hand. People can recognise it's not just Arteta's job to help get this team moving forward. Do you get it? And we just needed something to believe in. For me, and I think I speak for other Arsenal fans, but for me specifically, I wanted to see a manager say what he's going to do on Friday. The match comes on a Saturday, Sunday. I'm seeing what he wants to do. I wanted to see consistent improvement. From the moment he came in, you saw him trying to improve. Even for me, the best games, obviously they weren't perfect, but the defeat to Chelsea, game management needs to improve, and we threw that away. But, you know, the intensity, how he was trying to defend was the dramatic improvement. Obviously, we had a better success against United, and I like that. Arteta wants to play forward. He wants to be smart defensively, but he wants to show courage, and a lot of these things were missing. And, now everybody's singing from the same hymn sheet, and Arteta's done a great job. You look at, even when he came to the club, it was fractured, the team, all the micro and macro issues with the team. You had the Xhaka thing, and he's managed to put this all to bed and get everybody singing from the same hymn sheet. Of course, it's still early days, and as great as he is, if results don't go the way, Arsenal fans are, it can become a bit toxic, but yeah, people, I've got full faith in Arteta, and, I'm not saying he's going to win Champions League and win Prem and all these things, but just because a man is telling me something in his press conferences and I'm seeing what he's doing, like what he's trying to do, like I'm seeing the chat and I'm seeing bit by bit what he's trying to do, sort of thing. There's only one game I think I was looking at Arteta a bit funny, and that was when, what was it? I think Lacazette started and we just were poor people. I can't remember the team, but there's only been one game, and so far that's decent. He's going to make mistakes. He's then went on to say, I was lucky to play here, so everyone has to feel in that way. There was a lot of disconnection in many areas, and I want to bring everyone together. First of all, to make everybody understand how lucky we are to be here, and then a very clear direction on where we have to be. So everybody sings from the same hymn sheet, recognise their privilege, but recognise every day they've got to work like they're not here, sort of thing, which, again, you love it from Arteta. He spoke very high on Tierney, people, really high and really promising on Tierney, and singed a lot of his praises. He went on to say, I'm really looking forward to working with him and giving him the opportunity to play. His attitude, his commitment, his willingness is incredible, and I think he's going to bring something special to us. And obviously you've seen the stat stuff that's come out. Tierney tops a lot of that for Premier League footballers, and he must be dying to, like I said yesterday in the vid, resume his Arsenal career, actually get it back on track, because he's had 2 injuries and he's been robbed of really just starting the season well and things. He went on to say, he's referring to the injury, has been a shame, but it's part of his development. During your career, you go through moments. I challenge him to say, Kieran, how are you going to react to that? You can't feel sorry for yourself. This happened, and it's right. You can't feel sorry for yourself. He went on to say, I can't even remember if this was directly in relation to Tierney, but I liked it nonetheless. He said, okay, the level of pressure now is a little bit higher. You have to deal with it. You're playing with a top club, top expectations. You have everything to be successful here. You have the best possible attitude I've known from a player. Go and live your profession and enjoy it. He was then speaking on actually building relationships with players, and that's probably been one benefit of this whole Corona thing, in that he's been able, similar to Dubai, different circumstances, but like Dubai, it's off the field. You can understand players. How you talk to Aubameyang and get a positive reaction from Aubameyang, it might be different from Lacazette. And what I mean by that is, you look at the bunch of 11 starting players. There's 26 typically in the squad. Not everybody's the same way. You lot have all got brothers and sisters and siblings, or if you're not, you got friends. There's probably one friend you can shout at and give an absolute bollock into, and he'll hold it. There's probably another friend who feels a bit sour and starts crying. There's probably another friend friend or family member who starts saying, woe is me. So do you get it? You've got to learn how to get reactions out of people, and man management is the most important thing I believe in today's game. Of course, tactics is important. You don't win games, you're out the job. But you see many great tacticians fail because they can't understand people. Now, you look at Van Gaal, he was a good people person. He lost the people. You look at Jose, already with Ndombele, he's a great manager, a hallmark in the Premier League. But football is not ruled by an iron fist anymore. And even with Pep, you're hearing some of his relationships with players, and he's an anomaly because he's sick. But you get the point. You look at Klopp, you hear the relationship he's got with the players. They say he's like one of the guys. Man management is very vital, and Arteta gets that. He really understands that, people. You make people like you. You make people feel you're going the extra mile. They're gonna ride for you, people. They're going to ride for you. He did say, these one-on-one talks, we have time for an hour or an hour and a half, and it's been very valuable for me to understand them better, who they are. Most of them are kids still, and I want to really get to know them. We're not competing, so they can open up to me a little bit more. And of course, one thing I didn't say, he mentioned teenagers. They're typically shy. You've got Martinelli, who everybody's calling him a star, but 30 minutes I say 30 minutes ago, like 5 minutes ago, he was just a relative unknown in Brazil. So, you know, you don't know how he's reacting to that. You don't know his true personality. You don't know if obviously he believes in himself, but you don't know if he's still to come out of his shell. You've got Saka as well. Saka might be, I don't know this, could be a bit inverted and shy, so you need to prod him a bit. Reece Nelson could be the most confident player on the planet, and you get him chatting and for days sort of thing. So, and I'm not saying that's true, I'm just giving examples. You've got to understand your players, and especially the young players, because they can be a bit of an enigma at times. And Arteta understands that. Finally, he said, I have the time now to generate that chemistry. I want to understand the stages of their lives they're in, the worries that they have, the aims that they have, how they are feeling at the club. Then I can understand them better. And you can't disagree with anything Arteta has said there, people. Really and truly, it is quite positive to hear that. Away from that, though, when Arsenal have been linked with Angelino Steeler, Bayern Munich midfielder. Again, have no opinion on him. I just know he's technically very sound. I know he's got a decent engine in him, and I know he can dictate the tempo of a game. He is quite a decent player. Again, those that watch him on a frequent basis and are in the know-how with all that stuff say he's one of the, if not the most biggest talent in Bayern Munich's academy. I'm not too sure. Bayern Munich's youth out, I'm not too sure, because they've got a young English lad called Jamal Muslera. Can't pronounce his name, but former Chelsea player, moved to Bayern Munich, and I think he's going to be a star in his own right. But nonetheless, they rate him highly, and similar to the Cesar of Real Madrid, you can see the current theme, the consistencies. He's contracted until 2021. He's a young player with potential and someone that carries resale value or can be sold on for profit by Arsenal. We'll never know if we're legitimately interested in him, but that's what it is, and that's coming out of Sports Blind. Apparently, Arsenal from London have deposited specific interest for the 19-year-old defensive midfielder Angelo Steeler. His contract expires in 2021. Angelino wants to assert himself at Bayern in the long term, but gain initial professional experience as quickly as possible. One possibility, still goes in the summer, and Bayern Munich secures a buyback option for the talent. Now, that I don't agree with teams like Arsenal, top 6 teams, and teams above us doing buyback clauses to other teams, because we shot ourselves in the foot. But, you know, if our scouts have seen him and we've sounded out things, it is what it is. But this could just be similar to what you see a lot of the time, agents on behalf of their clients trying to get better contracts, because obviously Arsenal cannot spend a lot of money. We've got a young squad. You can see how these things invent themselves. Hopefully there is interest, because I like the best players. I think he's decent physically as well, but I'm not watching him religiously to have a really informed opinion. But we'll never know the validity of these claims, obviously, until it comes out. We've been linked with Gabriel of Lille, and there's no news development I've seen in that regards, but I saw a quote floating on Twitter, so I thought I'd mention it from him. He said, I'm very pleased with the recognition of big clubs in the Championship like the Premier League. If possible, it would be to leave in a club which also fights for titles with the certainty of growing, and a club that can help me play for the national team. Well, Arsenal could definitely help you play for the national team, because, David Luiz is there, you've got Martinelli there, The term titles is subjective. We'll probably be in the Europa League again. By default, we'll be in the FA Cup and things like that. And we're still in that if it does get playing again. So we can. You've been linked with PSG and teams like that. And you know what? If I was a betting, you've been linked with Chelsea as well. If I was a betting man, I'd probably say Chelsea are more likely to win the Premier League or whatever than we are right now, just because of, current history, recent history, better yet. But I'd be all up for him, of course. He has been linked with Everton, and on one hand, it did look like he was dead set to go there. So, if you're going to go to Everton, you can come to Arsenal. I know Everton have got ambitious owners and things, but it is what it is. So yeah, man, we've spoken about, Angelino Steeler, we've spoken about Arteta and briefly about Gabriel. But for now, people, I've got nothing more to add. I'm going to keep it moving. Deluded.